If you're a business owner and you're confused about online presence, SEO, website, and how AI can impact your business, please, please, please stop and listen to Rob Downey from Simply Be Found share about his business and how he is impacting business owners, thousands of business owners in their online presence. This is my conversation with Rob Downey. Welcome to Market Mavericks. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with leaders who are redefining industries in every corner of the market. From startups to established businesses, we'll uncover the strategies, challenges, and insights that drive success. Get ready to be inspired by the Mavericks who are shaping the future of business. Welcome everybody to Market Mavericks. I have Rob Downey here with me. I'm so excited to get to talk to Rob just about his experience in the digital marketing space and AI. So Rob, just kind of an overview. What do you do? What's kind of the company that you have right now? And what role do you play in it?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. We have simplybefound.com, which is a platform for small businesses to be able to market themselves. We've got our listings piece, which goes out to about 500 networks, and I built an entire engine that makes that possible and makes it to where you fill out one form and you go out everywhere.
Wow.
Then we have our social media marketing suite, and then that has AI built into it as well for content writing. And then we have our AI SEO pixel, which is really cool. It works with any website, can do all the SEO for that website.
Wow, that's fantastic. So let's talk each piece of that, right? So the 500 listings, why would I not just list myself on Google? I've got a small business owner. I've got to Google my business profile. Why do I not just do that? Talk to me. I've watched some of your videos. You know, we've kind of engaged online, but give our audience the rundown. Why would you look to get listed on all of those platforms?
Definitely. That's probably one of the most common mistakes I see with small businesses, especially. They focus just on that Google business profile and they don't think beyond that. And when you look at your search, whenever you look at what people are using to search, you've got mobile phones, you've got smartwatches, you have smart speakers, you have all these different devices. So you're limiting yourself on what your reach is.
Okay.
Everybody wants to say, I Googled it, but really, did they really Google it or were they inside of Bing? So when you look at it for search, you're limiting yourself if you just go to Google. Google only accounts for I saw a study this morning that was about 48.7% of the searches. So if you're not going out to the rest of the networks, you're being left behind by about 50%.
Sure.
When you go buy a computer off the shelf and you're getting a Windows machine, 9 times out of 10, it now has a limit on it that says that you have to install a different program to get Google Chrome installed on that computer, and it's not out of the box. So when you load up that Edge browser for the first time, you're inside of Bing, and most people just look at, hey, I'm inside of search, I'm Googling. It's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna go grab a Kleenex, but that might be a Sam's or the brand of Kleenex, but you still call it Kleenex.
That's a fantastic point. So I'm assuming, right, and I know what assuming is. I'm kind of setting this up for you to pitch. That sounds like it'd be very expensive for somebody to get all of those listings. What is that process when somebody works with your company?
So first off, we don't charge any setup fees. We don't do any contracts. It's 100% month to month, and it's $39 a month to get out to all those networks.
Wow.
That's going to get you on voice search. It's going to get you on Bing. It's going to get you on Alexa, Siri, Cortana, Bixby, all kinds of different networks. I have a whole video about how that network system works.
That's really cool. I'll make sure and add that in the show notes. So is that something that if I make a change in my business, if I update my hours, if I update anything about my offerings, how do I update that to all 500 plus networks? Do I go back to you, or is there a single platform? But how am I aggregating that data on my end?
So all what you're going to do is you're going to contact your marketing coach. So you're going to send us an email with that $39 per month. You're going to get access to a marketing coach that lets you ask unlimited marketing questions and to be able to optimize your profile. So the biggest thing with that I tell everybody is make sure you're communicating. Make sure you're communicating with us that, if things are working, if things are not working, because we can tweak your profile to be able to get it to work. And sometimes it's just those little tweaks that are going to make the biggest difference.
Cool. Yeah, that's
so
really
if you have a changed hours, any of that, your marketing coach will take care of it.
Okay. And then do you recommend making changes? So let's let's jump over into the AI Facebook side. What I have seen, so one of my businesses is a franchise business, and they use a large third party that posts to all of our social media accounts, and the reach that we get on those is so much lower than when we organically post. It is dramatic. So how does your platform get around that to help a local business owner if they go into the kind of the second iteration where you're working with the social media, working with AI? Talk to us about that.
It's unique to you. So what happens inside the franchise world, we have multiple franchises that work with us and use our platform or our social media suite to be able to send out that information. And what happens is they go in and they use what's called a merge tag. Do you know what a merge tag is?
No, I do not. No, please share with us.
So a merge tag, think about it as you have your company name, and then you might put in brackets city. Okay. And inside of those brackets, it's going to replace whatever city's inside of your profile. So then it's going to be like, okay, you're in Greeley, Colorado. Boom, it's going to put that in there. It might be phone number, puts that in there. But they're sending that information out to all of their franchisees. And all they're doing is changing the merge tags to make it unique for you. And that's not enough uniqueness. Yeah. So now you look like spam. You look like you are just saying the same thing over and over again. It's not unique. There's no value whatsoever to that kind of content.
Cool.
So when you take it in your local business and you use AI to generate it, it's going to be unique to you, and it's not being used for multiple different profiles. Nice. I see that a lot with like $98 Social and all these different places that do social content. They'll go, okay, I'm going to take home builders, or I'm going to take, a roofing business, and I'm going to send the same content out to all of them. Well, it has no value. It's just noise at that point.
Okay. And then how are you taking from an AI standpoint, if anybody's played with it, right? I mean, the technology is developing incredibly fast. But some of the tone of the way it sounds computer generated, some of them. How are you working when your platform to keep it feel more like a local person?
You get to control what it is. It's like having ChatGPT or Gemini right there. You can say, I want the tone to be this. You can say, hey, I use my past posts. It'll look at all the posts that you've ever put on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all of those different networks, and it's going to sound just like you. If you say, hey, sound like my other posts, it can actually read that and make that determination of what it should sound like. And if it doesn't, if it sounds generic, let us know, and we can help you be able to come up with a better command to be able to do it.
Sure, that's great. And then the last piece there, the SEO, the AI and SEO. I definitely want to dive into that. Like, what is that?
That one's really cool.
Yeah, talk to us about that. How did you come across that? How long have you been doing that service? What does that look like for a small business owner looking to take advantage of that?
So we made a big switch it was about 60 days ago. Okay. And we used to have a platform that you'd log into and you would do all your posts and everything from there. And it would go out to all the networks. And what we found is a lot of business owners didn't know how to use that. And the market also changed. So with how fast AI has been developing and how marketing has been going through all those processes, it's developing at a faster rate than I've seen. I've been in this industry since 95. And when I went through it, I looked at everything for what is really getting people the good results. I looked to see, okay, how much is it for websites? So if you would have talked to me 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, all right, websites are dead. They're just nothing but a business card. You have to have one. It should be a one page, nothing really to it. Everything else is powering it. Your listings are going to be able to do it. Then COVID hit. And COVID changed the industry, and then AI came right behind that, which then ended up changing the industry even more. Okay. And it brings your website back to being really super important because ChatGPT, Gemini, or any of these AI language models, they're using your website to be able to tell what your business does. Cool. So if you're not using the website in that way and not blogging and providing it, real true stories about problems you solve, you're not going to be found when someone goes to ChatGPT looking for that problem or looking for that solution. Okay. So I went in, I looked at it from that aspect. I was like, all right, so how do we do that? Well, what are the problems? Well, you have to have the right schema on the website, or schema. Depends on who you ask of how that's pronounced. But it's you have to make sure you have that right piece on there. You have to make sure the SEO is set up so that way everything knows what it is. I was like, all right, well, there's a lot of business owners who have developed their websites on Wix, GoDaddy, paid an agency. They might be on WordPress. They might be on Spot, on a lot of different places. And I was like, how can we make this work for any website out there? And also not just have the AI go on just rogue. Because if you let the AI just go rogue, you're going to get really black hat techniques, which is bad. You're going to get banned from Google if you do that. So we brought the marketing coach over, got the marketing coach piece in. They're the ones that go through it, make sure it makes sense. It's about 90% accurate at that point, and we start tweaking it. And it connects into your Google business or your Google Search Console, and it connects into Google Analytics, and it's pulling that data in, so it knows what's happening, and it's making those decisions on a live basis and making those changes. So it's just installing a pixel at the top of your website inside of the code. It makes the changes to your website without us even have to have access to it. And if you ever decide to leave us, you just take that off, and it goes back to where you started from.
Yeah, cool. So talk to us about, you said something there. I think it's an incredible piece of technology. I'm definitely personally going to look into it more. But talk to me about, you were referencing like blog posts. That is something that I've seen with our SEO internally. Folks are going to ChatGPT, they're going to Gemini, they're actually searching problems instead of Googling it. They're going to the specific AI. So how as a small business owner, how can I help counter out that or combat that instead of just, I'm putting money into PPC, I'm putting money into my SEO program? How do I engage with that on the local level as a business owner?
To make sure that you're blogging about real life experiences. What I recommend, the biggest way you can solve that problem, and a lot of business owners are terrified of it. I mean, you and I are doing it right now. You create a video, and from that video, you're going to get a transcript. So now you're going to be able to post the video out on your social. You're going to be able to post it out on YouTube. You take that same video, you go and you get a transcript from Google from it. They'll provide it to you. You put that inside of your Chat GPT, say, write me a blog about this, then write me some social posts about this. Now you just built your whole entire content piece. And it's around one great big huge robin. So now you just hit a bunch of different channels, and it's going to grow your channel from there. It's going to make all of your opportunities there better, because now you're in more spots saying the same thing.
I love that.
And that's a great way to generate content really fast and keep it unique. And the video doesn't have to be, polished and 100% perfect, because I find videos that are not 100% polished to be better than, someone who's 100% polished all the time.
It feels more natural, and it feels more genuine. Yeah, it definitely feels more genuine. That's probably the word I was looking for. So talk to me about when did you start Simply Be Found? Is that something that you started 15 years ago when you started in this industry, 20 years ago, or is that something that you started more recently?
So we started Simply Be Found in 2020.
Okay.
It was January of 2020. Apparently, I like to start things during pandemics and crashes. But it was January of 2020 when we started Simply Be Found. It all started because I walked into my co-founder's business. He was a client of mine at my other marketing agency that I still have. It just doesn't really do much anymore. Okay. But I walked in, I converted them all over to Simply Be Found. But I walked into his shop and I said, hey, what do you think of, how are things going? Are things going good? He goes, yeah, things are going great. Being found, no problem. I said, how about voice search? What do you think of that? And he goes, what's that? I said, well, ask Siri to find your screen printing business. He's sitting inside the business and he asked for it, and Siri found 3 of his competitors, and one was in a different city. And he goes, wow. All right. He goes, what are you thinking? I was like, this is what I'm thinking. I think this is going to be a big thing. And voice search is really, taking off. All the voice search calls that are happening, they're not us. Yeah. There's a lot of people calling up saying, hey, you're not registered on voice search. That's not us, but they've really helped us because it's been a whole new industry that's there. And that's really kind of where Simply Be Found formed. We wanted to be able to get back to the small business owner, because a lot of our competition doesn't go after the small business guy. They leave them behind because they don't know how to deal with them, because they're a bunch of squirrels. And we're all over the place.
Yeah.
I fit that mold pretty good.
yeah, most of us do, right? We're an eclectic bunch. So talk to us through one of the questions I love to ask is like the good, the bad, the ugly, the first 12 to 24 months. I mean, obviously you open in a pandemic, right? That's going to be very unique, but talk to us through what kind of advice, what did you learn in that first kind of 12 to 24 months of your startup?
So when we first started Simply Be Found, I mean, it was awesome to go get developers. It was awesome to be able to build an entire platform. But I would say probably 2 years in is when we started to notice that platform wasn't being used the way it should have been used. And to be able to keep up on technology, we had to make a huge pivot. And I think that's where a lot of business owners get stuck in their ways and they don't make that pivot soon enough to be able to make a change.
Sure.
And with how fast AI I touched on that just a minute ago, when kind of AI came into the picture and started changing everything, we had to go a different direction to be able to make sure that the businesses were being found, members were being taken care of the way they should have been. And that was a huge piece for us. I mean, we saw a huge increase in everything, and we've never paid for any ads for us personally. We've never done any PPC. We're 100% organic grown. And it's been absolutely awesome as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's
but
fantastic.
It's a matter of making those tweaks when those come up. And I noticed that when I did venture capital and bought companies that were about ready to crash and did all the stuff I did for that. I mean, I've seen that over my years. So having that foresight, I was able to be able to figure out, okay, we're getting ready to go into adapting. We got to just let it go. We got to reinvent ourselves and come back out. Now, some members are having a hard time with that. We talked to a member today. He's like, well, I don't have access to the platform anymore and I can't see my green check marks. I'm like,
yeah, they're gone.
Yeah. Because we all hate change. We all do.
Yeah. But change is good.
Change is good.
Normally. It can be good. It can be good. So talk to us through, you know, people love to talk about pivots. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. Y'all made a big pivot. What are some of the things that you saw? You saw that a change was coming. Can you give us any more detail about what you saw? What were red flags for you when you looked to make a big pivot in a business?
I look for one, you look at your bank account to know, is it working? Is it not working? That's probably the biggest spot. Ours, that wasn't the deciding factor, but we analyze data across thousands of different businesses. So we have the opportunity to be able to see that from a data standpoint. I love data and to be able to back that up with it. So I was able to look at that and be able to analyze and say, okay, guess what? We're seeing a change here. And I look at trends of what's getting ready to happen. Google's releasing out their entire AI search inside of their platform. They're really changing Google business profile. And our platform is really heavy inside of Google. And when their platform is crashing every other day, from a finance standpoint, chasing those, it was costing us about $20,000 a month to be able to keep that up on those changes. Yeah. And that's not worth it. So it was like, okay, we have to be able to make that change. And how do you make that change? And it's kind of like, you know, taking it behind the barn and shooting it is kind of one aspect to look at that. Yeah. I was told by a mentor. The other piece is, I mean, it's your baby, and you have to say, okay, bye to your baby, and here I'm getting a new baby. And that's a hard concept. And the business owners, we're very fine tuned for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's we are afraid to admit defeat, right? It's something that we feel like, oh, I can figure this out. That's normally why we get into business. Oh, I can figure that out. I can do that better. That somebody else can't do it as good as I can. And sometimes that's true. A lot of times it's not. But there's a lot of wisdom in that of finding like, hey, this is just not working. And I love some of the data that you're sharing there. So talk to me about your makeup when you started out. Were you 1099? Were you pulling W-2s? What was kind of the mix? I mean, especially in your business, are you 100% remote? Is your team 100% remote?
So we've went a couple different routes. I had an office for a little bit for myself. Everybody else is remote. We got staff inside of the Philippines. We have staff here in the United States. Everybody here in the United States is an owner or board member, which kind of makes it a lot easier to be able to handle the tax side. Sure. We don't have any W-2s besides us founders inside of the system, and everybody else would be contract work.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great idea to be able to do that.
Which is kind of a unique kind of aspect to the whole thing. We have advisors that are inside. We pulled data from a lot of different places that get that data side into it, which then allows us to be able to generate that in there and keep our overhead low.
Cool.
Being able to do what we do for $39 a month for that starting point is absolutely huge as far as that goes. And then when you get into the programming side, I mean, most of that was 100% wrote by myself.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So talk to me about team building, leadership, culture. I mean, with a remote team, especially with some overseas, we have some overseas folks too. But with overseas and U.S. based, how do you build culture? What kind of advice? What have you found since January of 2020? What advice would you give to somebody?
Yeah, well, the overseas really kind of changed during the whole COVID piece. Being able to find great people during that time was awesome because they were laying people off over there like crazy. But when it comes to being able to build that culture, it's being able to stay on top of everybody and treat anybody the way that you want to be treated is the big key, especially inside of our type of business aspect when it comes to technology. And make sure that you give enough flexibility for them to be able to do what they need to be able to do.
Cool.
And I've personally been remote, except for having my office for a little bit of time. And it was just me, myself, and I in my office. So, I've worked from home now for, live as 9, so 11 or 12 years.
Okay.
So it's one of those things to where I've had those remote teams for that long. So even before COVID became a thing and everybody started going remote, I already had those systems all in place.
Yeah.
And I love to be able to use Microsoft Planner to be able to keep everything in place and keep track of all the tasks that are inside of there. And I love using like Power Automate and then now bringing AI and everything into it.
Nice.
So it's about having that right technology to make it feel like there. I mean, we had a 2-hour conversation this morning with my team. Everybody was part of that conversation. Everybody's video cameras were on. Yeah. It's about bringing that engagement in.
I love that. So we love around here. We love to learn from other people's mistakes. We all make them. What's a mistake over your life? Let's just call it and simply be found. That you made, that you learned a key lesson from. What was the mistake and what did you learn?
Probably the biggest one was not taking the platform out soon enough.
Okay.
Which cost us a lot of money along the way. And then just holding on to it, which, I mean, it's like that baby scenario. I held on to it way longer than I should have, but got rid of it in time to be able to save it from a crash and pull it back out and to be able to get everything to where it was and stay ahead of the curve. Because when it comes to technology, staying ahead of the curve is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're going against companies like Yext and Bright Local and Sign Up and all these really huge corporations, some of them public, they can't pivot as fast as you can as a small business. And that's why I've kept us at that small business level, is to be able to make sure that, we have 20 staff members. We do amazing things with them. We handle thousands of profiles, which is awesome. But I tried getting bigger than that, and it got worse. Yep. And I brought it back down because we started to lose that ability to be able to relate to our actual customer base and our member base that we have. So I would say those are kind of go hand in hand, and learning and be able to take what we learned and be able to pivot from that aspect to be able to save it. But I probably held on to that longer than I should have.
Okay. That's cool to know. So talk to me about technology. How do you try to stay ahead of technology? What are you doing? What is your team doing to try to stay in the trends and ahead of the trends?
So we're watching feeds like crazy. We're part of some of the programs. We're not partners with Google or anybody, but we know people that are partners that kind of feed us that information. Okay. It's one of those things because we don't want Google to tell us how to do our job and what we should be doing. That's why we never got that. Why I let my partnership go with one of my other companies. Okay. But it's one of those things to where we watch for those trends. We look at everything on a data aspect. If the data says it's going to be going that way, it's probably going to go that way. And looking at what that market is. Coming from that venture capital group that I learned from, and that was probably my biggest mentorship that I got that really shaped me as a business owner. And I've owned businesses for years before that, was being able to how they looked at that data. So when you analyze a business from every day and you're going through and looking at it, you have to look at yourself and you have to step back and evaluate it and go, okay, what's happening out there? How are people changing? What's happening over here? And you're going to miss stuff along the way. I didn't know Google brought back inside a Google business profile until this morning. I guess it's been out for 7 months that you don't have to provide your business hours. Yeah. And I'm like, when did that happen? I looked up, I was like, is that new? And I was like, oh, I did that 7 months ago. How did I miss that?
It happens. It's definitely, yeah. It's just so much. It's so much data to try to stay ahead of. And I love that y'all are working on that. So you've mentioned venture capital a couple of times. Talk to us about that time in your life. What are some things you learned? What were the roles that you had? What did you do?
So I was marketing for some major companies at that point, and they bought one of my companies out, and I ended up taking over, and I was marketing for thousands of companies at that point and building websites and analyzing companies to know what market trends were going to happen. And that was a big piece to be able to learn from. I got to work with some major players that I've got NDAs that I can't talk about, but I got to play at the big boy table, and probably the most interesting piece is that is I was the one guy without a degree, and all of them had a lot of degrees.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how long was the business that you got acquired by? What was the acquisition process like in the private equity space? I know a lot of our listeners are very interested in that. That is their exit strategy. So talk to us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Mine was really interesting. So I had a company that was actually not doing so hot. It was a marketing company. I was paying people way too much money and was doing a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of debt, and they needed some assets that I actually had. And I knew one of the guys, and he goes, I can do a debt sale. And I was like, what's that mean? He goes, we come in, we acquire all of your debt, and here's what we can do, and we can help you be able to turn things around. And they took the whole company apart, and it was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's super interesting.
He goes, but you're going to have an open mind to it. And him and I are great friends still today, and it was a great process. So we got to take some of those assets. I had a platform then that I was trying to be able to solve some issues, and it worked great inside the enterprise world. And they plugged right in.
That's really cool. And so how long did you stay on with that organization?
About 3.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. That's really cool. I like that. I mean, it's one of those things, right? I mean, in my life, going through different roles that I've had, there's so much value you can find in just doing it and being at some of those tables. It's great to get access to a table that somebody's been through this before. This is their 100th acquisition, and you're like, well, this is my first one. So it's great to get some of that feedback. So we have a lot of folks.
We all have failures.
Yeah.
I mean, when my 9-year-old was born, I had a business partner at that time, and I had another business I was doing in it was an actual marketing platform, kind of like Simply Be Found in some aspects. And when Liv was born, he actually did a hostile takeover 3 weeks after she was born, and my wife was in the hospital for a gallbladder surgery.
Wow.
So, and then he crashed the company afterwards. We were supposed to be acquired by Google at that point.
Wow. I hate to hear that.
He got money hungry, and he was a lawyer, and that was a learning experience as well. So, I mean, every failure you have inside a business is going to help you be able to get to the next side. It's learning from that failure and not letting it eat you alive, and being able to let it just roll right off your back.
I like that. Yeah, to take it as this is something that happened. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to move forward. That's something we tell our team all the time, right? I don't care if you make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but I want you to learn from it, and let's move forward, and let's not continue to make the same mistakes, because then we're not learning, and that's an issue.
100%.
Yeah. So talk to us about books. I love books. I'm an avid reader. A lot of our audience loves to listen to books, read books, listen to podcasts. Is there anything that you would recommend that has meant a lot to you, say in the last 12 months, 24 months, of a book or podcast that you've read or listened to that has helped you grow as a leader and helped you prepare as a founder of Simply Be Found?
You know, I'll go back to the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's still my favorite book out of all of them. But to kind of bring it up into, if I was to recommend books for anybody, I like, do you know who Gary Vee is?
Oh, yeah.
So Gary Vee put out day trading day trading attention, I think is what it is.
Okay.
That's a good read. I like Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yep. Big Donald Miller fan.
Yep. Jeb Blunt also does some really good stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's fantastic. I'll make sure and put those in the notes. I haven't seen Gary Vee's new book, so I will definitely add that. I love his perspective on things. He's got a great perspective. So talk to us about, we love to talk about commitments, right? Not just goals. It's a commitment. This is something that we're committed to doing as an organization. What's a commitment that you have, or a goal, but a commitment in your organization over the next year that you're striving to achieve?
To be able to help as many small businesses as we can. So our entire piece is to be able to build that up and get as big as we possibly can, but be able to provide a great service over to our members at the same time. But to be able to teach, I mean, if you go to our YouTube channel, it's one of those things where my entire goal is to really give back to that small business world where you can learn from it, you can grow from it, and you can learn how to do your own marketing. Because what I see is a lot of businesses get stuck with going to an agency. Yeah. They might be really good at designing something, but they don't know how to be able to implement it.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that final thing. So that's my big thing, is I want to be able to keep up with technology, be able to keep that where it is, and be able to adapt and be able to really kind of grow from there.
That's cool. Well, Rob, I appreciate your time very much this afternoon. I appreciate all the wisdom you shared. I want to wrap up with one question, and then I want to get how everybody can get a hold of you. What piece of advice would you give to somebody who's either just starting out their business, looking to take their business to the next level, or looking to get into business? What's a piece of advice that you wish you would have had outside of what you've already shared?
Take risks. And be able to believe in yourself is probably the biggest one.
Okay.
And remember, making money is a lot easier than keeping it.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. So do you have, let me dive into that a little bit. Do you have a way that you evaluate risk in your business?
I evaluate risk of how many people is it going to help? Is there a market for it? And am I going to be able to hit that market and be able to do it organically?
Okay. Yeah, cool. I like that a lot. So how do people get connected to you, right? I mean, some small business owner out there hears this and says, hey, I really need to get the listing. I need to get the help on social media, or I need to get the help on all three with my SEO. How does somebody get connected to you, Rob?
They can visit us at simplybefound.com. They can also go to youtube.com/@simplybefound, and they can see all of our videos from there. But simplybefound.com would be the big one.
Fantastic. Well, Rob, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you for the wisdom that you shared with us today. Everybody, thank you for following along with Market Mavericks. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Market Mavericks. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to take your own adventure to the next level. Don't forget to follow the show to keep up with our latest episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and share it with others who could benefit. And hey, if you know a market maverick who has a story that needs to be heard, please drop their name in the comments. We would love to bring their insights to the show. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and leading with purpose.